What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Thursday, September 30th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Oh, and good news, guys. Make sure to stay tuned to the very end of this video because we removed the box that was popping up and blocking the lineup. So now you can see a full lineup using these picks that we made in this video if you stay to the very end. Okay, guys, we have a 9-game slate tonight. So let's take a look at the pitcher position. And oh man, last night we had some batters that just knocked it out of the park. We got back on track with our batter picks. But Max Scherzer, wow, what a disappointment. He killed my lineup. I'm sure he killed most everyone else's lineup as well. But that's what happens. Sometimes you go with the stud pitcher, you pay up for them, then they go out there, put up a stinker. But let's get back on track with our pitcher picks here tonight. So I like Joe Ryan pitching against a low salary batting team, the Detroit Tigers. Joe Ryan is only giving up a .495 OPS versus righties and a .481 OPS versus switch hitters. He's facing 4 righties and 4 switch hitters. Now there's no at pitches versus the Tigers yet, and Joe Ryan is $8,800 FanDuel salary, $500 more on DraftKings, projected at 30.6 fantasy points here tonight. He's averaging 35 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 48, 27, and 43 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So he has an ERA of 2.46. His record is 2-1 on the season, pitching an average of 82 pitches per game. So I like Joe Ryan here versus the Detroit Tigers. I also like Rich Hill with a 6% batting advantage over a low salary batting team, the Miami Marlins. Rich Hill is giving up a .530 OPS versus lefties and a .645 OPS versus righties. He's facing 3 lefties and 5 righties, and the Marlins have hit 7 of his last 29 pitches. That's a .241 batting average, but a pretty small sample size. So Rich Hill is $7,400 FanDuel salary, $400 less on DraftKings, projected at 33.6 fantasy points here tonight. He has an ERA of 3.87, record is 6-8 on the season, pitching an average of 78 pitches per game. He's averaging 24 fantasy points per game, and he scored 27, 29, and 18 fantasy points in the last 3 games. But I like this pick because Vegas thinks this is going to be a low-scoring game. Only 7.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Rich Hill here versus the Miami Marlins.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. So we saved a little bit of salary with our pitcher pick, so we can fit in a couple of studs to this lineup. So I like Buster Posey with a 40% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Madison Bumgarner. Buster Posey is batting 21% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.046 OPS versus lefties. And Madison Bumgarner, he's giving up a .869 OPS versus righties. That's 19% worse than his other pitches. So he throws his worst ball versus righty batters, and there's no at-bats versus Bumgarner yet. Buster Posey is $3,600 FanDuel salary, $1,100 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9.2 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 12, 22, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Buster Posey here versus Madison Bumgarner. Now, Freddie Freeman is also in a good spot. If you want to pay just $300 more on FanDuel, he's got a 51% batting advantage over Kyle Gibson because Freddie Freeman is batting 31% better versus righty pitchers, batting a 1.095 OPS versus righties, and Kyle Gibson throws his worst ball versus lefty batters, 20% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .871 OPS versus lefties. And Freddie Freeman is 1 for 2 with a 2.750 OPS versus Gibson because that one hit was for a home run. He's $3,900 FanDuel salary, $1,700 more on DraftKings, projected at 12.5 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 6, and 9 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Freddie Freeman here versus Kyle Gibson. Now, Mitch Garver, Miguel Sano, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., those guys are also in good spots here tonight. But let's move on to the second base position. I like Wilmer Flores with a 34% batting advantage over that low salary pitcher, Madison Bumgarner. Wilmer Flores is batting 15% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .885 OPS versus lefties. And Madison Bumgarner, as we know, pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, 19% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .869 OPS versus righties. Now, Wilmer Flores, the reason I like this pick is because he's 8 for 25, batting a .320 batting average, and a .906 OPS versus Bumgarner. He's $3,000 FanDuel salary, $100 less on DraftKings, so I love that DraftKings price. Projected at 10.1 fantasy points here tonight. Now, he's only averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season, but he scored 3, 10, and 9 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Wilmer Flores here versus Madison Bumgarner. Now, here's a value play for you. I like Jonathan Villar with a 41% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Edward Cabrera. Jonathan Villar is batting 4% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .683 OPS versus righties. And Edward Cabrera, he pitches his worst ball by far to switch hitters, 37% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.395 OPS versus switch hitters. Jonathan Villar is 1 for 2 with a 1.250 OPS versus Cabrera. He's only $2,500 FanDuel salary, $600 more on DraftKings, projected at 11 fantasy points here tonight, and he's averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 0, 13, and 0 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Jonathan Villar here versus Edward Cabrera.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. So Jose Ramirez, he's in a good spot. Evan Longoria, he's in a good spot. And I already gave you Wilmer Flores and Jonathan Villar, so let's take a look at Evan Longoria. He's got a 45% batting advantage over that low salary pitcher, Madison Bumgarner. So I'm liking this righty stack versus Bumgarner here. So Evan Longoria is batting 26% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.005 OPS versus lefties. We know Madison Bumgarner pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .869 OPS versus righties. Now, the only thing I don't like about this pick is Evan Longoria is 1 for 6 versus Bumgarner, but that one hit is for a home run. And he's $3,200 FanDuel salary, only $600 more on DraftKings, so I like that price on both sites. And he's projected at 11.3 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 3, 12, and 0 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Evan Longoria here versus Madison Bumgarner. Okay, who do we have at the shortstop position? One of my favorite players in baseball. I like Xander Bogaerts with a 49% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Alexander Wells. Xander Bogaerts is batting 8% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .925 OPS versus lefties. And Alexander Wells, he pitches his worst ball by far to righty batters, 41% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.210 OPS versus righties. Now, Xander Bogaerts is 0 for 3 versus Wells, but man, those splits are good, and he's got to be due for a hit. So he's $3,700 FanDuel salary, $1,800 more on DraftKings, projected at 13.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 9, 0, and 3 fantasy points in his last 3 games. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 10 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Xander Bogaerts here versus Alexander Wells. So here's a value play for you. I like Jose Iglesias batting against that same low salary pitcher, Alexander Wells. Jose Iglesias, he bats a little bit better versus lefty pitchers, batting a .840 OPS versus lefties. And Alexander Wells, we know, pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a 1.210 OPS versus righties. Now, Jose Iglesias is 0 for 2 versus Wells, but he's only $2,300 FanDuel salary, $1,000 more on DraftKings, projected at 8.4 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 0, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 10 runs scored in this game, so I like Jose Iglesias here versus Alexander Wells. Okay, moving on to the outfield position, a stud pick for you. This is my home run hitter, my dong of the day. I like JD Martinez with a 38% batting advantage over that same low salary pitcher, Alexander Wells. So I like this righty batter stack versus Wells. JD Martinez is batting a .749 OPS versus lefties. Alexander Wells is giving up a 1.210 OPS versus righties. And JD Martinez is 1 for 2 with a 2.5 OPS versus Wells because that one hit is for a home run. He's $3,800 FanDuel salary, $1,000 more on DraftKings, projected at 9.8 fantasy points here tonight, but I think he's going for a home run in this one. And he's averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 38, 0, and 7 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like JD Martinez here versus Alexander Wells. I also like Brandon Nimmo with a 53% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Edward Cabrera. Brandon Nimmo is batting 16% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .890 OPS versus righties. And Edward Cabrera, he pitches 37% worse to lefties as he does righties, giving up a 1.073 OPS versus lefties. Now, Brandon Nimmo is 2 for 2 with a 2 OPS versus Cabrera, and he's only $3,000 FanDuel salary and only $200 more on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites, and he's projected at 10.5 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 10, 12, and 3 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Brandon Nimmo here versus Edward Cabrera.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.